Ancient Rome was a world without mercy, built on military strength, strict discipline, and an unforgiving legal system. Mercy was rarely an option. Whether you were a deserter, a criminal, or simply on the wrong side of power, justice was swift and brutal. The Romans didn't just kill their enemies, they made a spectacle out of it. Public executions were held in arenas, military camps, or city squares, drawing massive crowds. Some were meant purely as entertainment, while others were carefully crafted to fit the crime. And for those who committed the most unthinkable act, killing their own parents, the Romans reserved a fate so bizarre and horrifying that even seasoned executioners might hesitate. This was the punishment of the sack, or Poena Cullei. But this was just one of many ways Rome maintained order through terror. Across the empire, punishments ranged from crucifixion and burning alive to starvation and dismemberment. Rome didn't simply execute criminals, it turned their deaths into a lesson for all. These gruesome spectacles served to deter crime, reinforce authority, and entertain the masses, solidifying Rome's grip on its vast empire. To understand the sheer brutality of Roman justice, we must delve into the terrifying details of their most infamous executions. The punishment of the sack, a fate worse than death. In Roman society, respect for one's parents was sacred. Killing a mother or father wasn't just a crime, it was an insult to the gods and an attack on the natural order. The punishment wasn't just death, it was ritual humiliation, terror, and agony all at once. Once found guilty, the condemned were sewn into a large leather sack. But they weren't alone. Inside with them were 4 living creatures, a snake, a monkey, a dog, and a rooster. The sack was tied shut, sealing the person in complete darkness, trapped with these frantic, clawing, biting creatures. If the shock and suffocation didn't kill them, the terrified animals inside might. Then came the final horror. The sack, weighted down with stones, was thrown into a river. It quickly sank, dragging the condemned and the animals into the depths. There, in total darkness, as the sack filled with water, the person drowned in terror, struggling against the very creatures they had been sewn in with. This execution wasn't about spectacle. It was about erasing the criminal from existence, washing them away like they had never lived. Even in later years, when modifications were made to Roman law, Poena Cullei remained a terrifying punishment reserved for the most detested criminals. The ritual nature of the execution, the symbolic rejection of the condemned from society, and the deliberate suffering involved make it one of the most disturbing aspects of Roman justice. Military discipline, the terror of Fustuarium and Decimation. In the Roman military, discipline was everything. A single act of cowardice or desertion could put an entire legion at risk. Rome had no tolerance for weakness. The punishment was Fustuarium, a brutal execution where the condemned was beaten to death by their own comrades. This was not just an execution, it was a public lesson. A convicted soldier was stripped of his weapons and armor, reduced from a warrior to a condemned man. His fellow soldiers, his brothers in arms, were ordered to form a circle. One by one, they took turns clubbing him to death with wooden staffs. The first strike might break a rib, the second could crush a limb. There was no mercy, no way out. Just blow after blow until the condemned lay lifeless on the ground. The most terrifying part? Refusing to participate wasn't an option. Any soldier who hesitated to strike risked being punished himself. If an entire unit was guilty of cowardice, the Romans took things even further. They used a punishment called decimation. Every 10th soldier was randomly selected and executed by his own comrades. The rest were forced to watch and continue fighting, knowing they could be next if they ever disobeyed an order again. Fear was the glue that held the Roman legions together. But discipline extended beyond the battlefield. Soldiers caught stealing, disobeying direct orders, or showing insubordination could face branding, mutilation, or exile. For the Romans, maintaining a strong army wasn't just about training, it was about ensuring absolute obedience through the ever-present threat of pain and death. The psychological impact of these punishments was profound, instilling unwavering loyalty and unshakable fear among the ranks. Death by wild beasts, Damnatio ad Bestias. If death by clubbing was brutal, Damnatio ad Bestias was pure horror. This punishment didn't just kill, it turned execution into a spectacle, a form of blood-soaked entertainment that thrilled the masses. Inside the Colosseum and other grand arenas, thousands of spectators gathered to watch criminals, traitors, and prisoners face their doom in the most savage way possible, being torn apart by wild animals. Those sentenced to Damnatio ad Bestias were led into the arena with no weapons, no armor, just their bare hands. Some were chained to posts, unable to move. Others were forced to run for their lives, knowing there was no escape. Then the cages opened. Lions, tigers, bears, and even packs of starving wolves were released, their hunger driving them into a frenzy. The condemned had seconds, maybe minutes, before they were mauled, their screams mixed with the deafening cheers of the crowd. But this wasn't always a quick death. The Romans, ever the masters of cruelty, sometimes weakened the animals beforehand, ensuring the execution dragged on longer. A single lion might toy with its victim, biting and clawing, but not delivering a killing blow. A pack of wolves could take turns attacking, making the suffering last. The ultimate cruelty, Rome's most unimaginable punishments. Rome had countless ways to make criminals suffer. Crucifixion was perhaps the most infamous, a slow, agonizing death designed to inflict maximum pain and humiliation. Another method was death by molten gold, where the condemned had molten metal poured down their throat, a fate as horrifying as it was symbolic. Fire, starvation, and impalement were all used to instill fear. Rome's punishments weren't just about justice, they were about control. They were about fear. They were about reminding every citizen and every enemy that to defy the empire was to invite suffering beyond imagination. A legacy of fear and power. The Roman Empire's brutal execution methods were more than punishments. They were instruments of control. From the ritualistic horror of Poena Cullei to the public terror of Damnatio ad Bestias, these methods ensured obedience, instilled fear, and entertained the masses. By making suffering a spectacle, Rome reinforced its authority, sending a clear message that defying the empire meant a fate worse than death. Though centuries have passed, the legacy of Roman torture endures in history books and popular imagination. These punishments reveal the extreme lengths Rome went to maintain its rule, proving that even the greatest empires relied on cruelty to sustain their power. A world beyond Rome's brutality. Unlike ancient Rome, where justice was often cruel and unforgiving, modern societies have built legal systems based on fairness, rehabilitation, and human rights. Where Rome ruled by fear, today's world strives, however imperfectly, for due process and dignity. Public executions, brutal punishments, and spectacles of suffering are relics of the past, replaced by courts, appeals, and the belief that even those who err deserve a chance at redemption. While history remembers Rome for its grandeur and military might, it also serves as a reminder of how far humanity has come. Instead of arenas filled with spectators cheering for death, we have stadiums filled with crowds celebrating life, music, sports, and unity. Instead of executions meant to instill fear, we have laws designed to protect. Though the past was often dark, the progress we've made proves that civilization isn't just about power, it's about compassion, justice, and the value of every human life. Thanks for learning with us. If you want to see more, hit that like and subscribe button. New videos are shown here. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one.